Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Danielle Lord. I'm the founder and principal of Archetype Learning Solutions. And on this channel, we talk about all things employee engagement. And our strategy is simple. We really encourage everyone to have quality daily interactions so that they can engage everyone every day. And the great thing about these strategies is they cost you nothing. There's no high cost associated with any one of our 12 strategies. Just a little bit of your time, attention, and a little bit of your heart. And that's why I think today's topic around relationships is really exciting for me. So I'm going to set the stage. Oh, before we go on, I just want to add that most of what I like to talk about, I try and go a little bit deeper into some of the theory, some of the psychology, and some of the human dynamics that show up in the workplace that are all interrelated, and how employees show up, which is a huge part of what it is that we're going to talk about today. This is a really, I think, critical and missing piece in most of our education, and certainly would go a long way, I think, in helping inform managers and how the dynamics that are occurring within their own teams, particularly as it relates to employee engagement. Okay, so this, I'm going to set this up a little bit with a couple of different pieces. Now, I have talked about leader making in a couple other videos, and if you watch one, I went completely blank and couldn't remember the really fundamentals of what leader making entails, but it's working through what is referred to as the stranger, acquaintance, and relationship phases. The idea of being that leaders should be taking on the capacity to really work towards establishing and getting everyone as close as they can to that relationship phase. Now, of course, relationships are going to look different employee to employee. So you might have some relationships that are really strong, really great, and you might have others where the employee is maybe not as open to being in the relationship, but you constantly want to be striving towards that, because the benefit is that you have richer conversations and you have team members and managers who are all working towards the betterment of the organization overall. And I think there's most likely, and I haven't done any research on this, but I'm guessing that there's probably a much stronger correlation to employee engagement with the relationship overall, which was very exciting for me when I found this research study exploring the relationship between surface acting, job stress, and emotional exhaustion in health professionals, the moderating role of LMX, or leader member exchange theory, in which the leader making stranger acquaintance relationship phase is based on. So this was very informative for me in terms of some of the research that I continue to do related to physicians, but I also think that, again, there's that direct connection back to employee engagement. Okay, so the other thing when we talk about professional workplace relationships, we also want to be very cautious to say that that's a tension that we have to hold as managers. We have to be striving to those strong quality relationships, all the while knowing that we have to keep a lot of those individuals somewhat at an arm's length, because there may be times as a manager that you might be called upon to do something that is uncomfortable or just flat out kind of yucky as you get to know individuals and you bring them into those emotional, mental relationships that we have. Sometimes we have to be the disciplinarian. Sometimes we have to have those tough conversations. And sometimes those tough conversations might even be a termination. Now, I'm going to caveat that with, if we have those good relationships, we shouldn't have to be the disciplinarian, because we have the relationship and we have the conversation that's going to allow us to work through the situation so they never become a disciplinarian event, which hopefully then vastly eliminates the need for termination. RIFs, or work reduction in workforce, that's a completely different story. But at the end of the day, it is something that we have to hold in tension, and we certainly can't show any favoritism, such as if we're going to all get together for cocktails after work, it's got to be a full-on invite to the entire team. It can't just be picking one or two people out of the team and saying, let's the three of us go have cocktails. That's bad. That's when bad things start to happen. But always striving towards that space of having as much of a relationship as you can with your team members. Okay, so early Leader-member exchange theory has been heavily criticized. It was originally introduced in about 1975 by an academic researcher, Dr. Grain, Graen. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. My apologies. And the original work was really kind of yucky, and it was like about creating those dyadic relationships amongst the team where certain people did have favoritism and others did not, based on the quality and output of their work. Later work by the same individuals got to the point where they recognized that was not effective and began to ask managers and inform their own, to ask managers to inform their own management behavior by assessing how they can improve or the relationship behavior, or how they can improve their own management practices through or by improving relationships. Sorry to muddle that a bit. So later work by the same researchers, and I think he's still pretty actively researching. I just saw something from a body of work from him not too long ago. So I think he's still really active in this work. But future work has been all about the power of the relationship between manager and employee. Okay, so that's a little bit of the academic background for a bit of a history lesson there. So in this particular study, they talked about a couple different things. So the relationship phase was crucial in understanding how employees, particularly in the healthcare sector, mitigated the stress of what are called job demands and resources, or JDR, as well as it's COR, it's conservation of resources is what that comes down to. So COR and JDR, which is the kind of equivalent of how much resources do I have, how many tasks do I have that are being piled upon me, and how many resources that I have that able to accomplish those tasks. And of course, resources can be time, money, other human resources that are on the team, et cetera. So as job demands go up and resources go down, there is a much higher likelihood of high stress, right? So that's the JDR, the job demand resources aspect of it. And with high stress comes what? Comes sometimes distressed behavior that starts to emerge, and we start to see people where you could be pushing up against their values. And so we can sometimes tend to see some behavior that starts to crop into that we might consider or label bad behavior. Oh, someone's throwing a temper tantrum, or they can't control their anger, or they can't control their temper. Okay, so we've got the leader-member exchange piece. We've got the job demand resources and conservation of resources. We know that as job demands increase and resources decrease, stress also increases. We get into high stress situations. Then we start to see some behavior as a result of that. Human nature, human behavior that's going to come out. So then we get into the acting portion of this, and there are there's a couple different things that they use, but surface acting means that I'm just gonna have to roll with the punches because no one's gonna listen to me. And then there's deep acting, which is how I'm actually showing up. And as it relates to all of this work, am I allowed to present myself with deep acting? Am I allowed to present myself as me? Am I allowed to say, this really sucks, somebody needs to do something about it? Or do I just have to put on my smiley face and say, it's gonna be okay, I'll get through it? Okay, so leader-member exchange theory, job demand resources, surface acting, and deep acting. And hopefully I gave enough attention to the surface acting and the deep acting. Bottom line of the study was that as employees, or team members, as I like to refer to all of us, as team members and manager relationships improve, employees or team members no longer feel that they have to improvise with surface acting, meaning it's okay, I'll be okay, I'll just go out to my car and bang on the steering wheel for a few minutes. But I get to come in through deep acting because I have this relationship and I get to be myself. And I get to say, this is really fucked up. I don't have the resources to do this, yet there's still the demand of making sure that this project is successful. And just being allowed to have a little bit of a temper tantrum and allow your full self to come into the workplace. That's really what it comes down to, is allowing people to be their full self. And if I have that relationship with my team member, I'm going to go, you know what? I'm just going to let employee Joe vent and be upset and be aggravated. And I'm going to be there to support him and know that everything is okay, rather than enforcing this idea of surface level acting. Because the more we have to provide this or improvise with the surface level acting, the more actually stressful it becomes. And we hold on to that stress, and it becomes very exhausting. And there's where there's moral injury, where there's burnout, where there's compassion fatigue, et cetera, specifically as it relates in healthcare. So there's other industries, right, where the same thing is still showing up. But the result is that you've still got people that are very, very frustrated. And while they've talked about moral injury, compassion, fatigue, burnout, et cetera, the one missing piece that needs to really be looked at is, how does this relate to employee engagement? And if I'm burnt out, if I'm experiencing moral injury, I'm likely to not be as engaged. Okay, there you go. There's the value of real strong relationships within our organizations to hopefully enhance employee engagement overall. Okay, I think that's it. I think that covers the study. I think that covers, again, the value of the relationship, leader-member exchange theory, how important relationships are in our organizations. And we just don't see it right now. I'm seeing and hearing folks who are just really struggling. Their managers don't want to answer any questions. They don't want to hear about any problems. They're just labeled as troublemakers. And that's really frustrating for employees. And it's all about the relationship. Really, seriously, it's all about the relationship. Okay, so I think that'll do it for today. But I was very excited to get this study, to read it and see the outcomes of this. And I certainly think that, again, it's all about the relationship. All right, if this content resonates with you, I hope you'll like, share, subscribe to the channel, add a comment. And something that I'm thinking about doing is inviting folks on to have a conversation about what their experience was like with bad engagement, low engagement, behaviors that contributed to their lack of engagement, whether you're an individual contributor or a manager. So if that's of interest to you, please drop a note in the comment. Or you can email me, Danielle@archetypelearningsolutions.com, and we'll make sure that gets included in the description box as well. All right, thanks so much. And remember, it really is all about the relationships. Okay, hope to see you again soon. Bye.